First, I'd like to say on behalf of Sean and Scott and my mother, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we love you. This is obviously going to go terribly. I knew it would, because I would break up even talking about him when he was alive. Sorry. Hopefully, I hope some of you are crying with me. I know you are. That's a good thing, right? Gotta get through this. So he left a piece of him with all of us, obviously. You heard Mike talk about he grew up in Medina's children's home for his later teenage life. When he went there, he was the oldest of his siblings and one of the older kids. And he was, as I've been told, 40 when he was 15 already, so. But he did a lot around there, worked with all the kids and everyone around there, led by example as always. Now I, as his son, work with a lot of teenage kids who come from there, that sort of place, or who go into that sort of place. When he was there, I was told he was kind of the enforcer. He would help the staff wrangle up kids who were trying to run away. It wasn't easy to run away from Medina Children's Home. I think you had to get some country road somewhere, and as long as they headed you off before you got there, it's pretty easy to get you back, and he would help out with that. Now his middle son, Sean, is an exemplary police sergeant. Helping people out in that way. After Medina, he joined the Air Force, where he served his country for 20 years or so before retiring. Now his oldest son, Scott, is up for retirement soon, or already up for retirement. So he left a big piece in his sons and his grandchildren. All remind me so much of him. A love like his just doesn't go away, it continues on, even long after he's gone. And he did all that. I don't know who was his example. I'm guessing it was his mother, who was one of the most loving people I met. But he didn't have the fatherly figure to show him how to do that. Like I said, he was that fatherly figure to many. He was too good for this world, and he was too good for any of us. One time, my friend, or someone I knew, said, because again, I'd break up when I was talking about it, how good he was. He said, you talk about your dad like he's Jesus. And let me give my response to that right now. My father wasn't Jesus, but he loved his neighbor as himself. He would go out his way to help people. He never met a stranger. He never prejudged anybody. Didn't matter the color, the creed, the religion. He didn't care. He would love you as himself, probably more than himself. My father wasn't Jesus, but he gave himself as he forgave others. We ran a gym together for a while. And there's this young guy, just kind of a lost soul, but we were trying to help him out as always. Years later, in a fit of anger, he told me, well, I was stealing money from you and your dad. Cash here and there, loose cash. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, you kept the loose cash in there and I'd take money. And I said, you weren't stealing it. You can't steal what we give freely. My dad would, I don't know if he had to forgive many others because he wouldn't judge many others. And in treating others with love, not many others would treat him badly back to forgive. But most importantly, what people would do is use him, right? But that's not even the right word, because again, he would give it freely. There's probably some people here who feel like they used him or feel like they didn't contact him enough or feel they wronged him somehow. He forgave you. He never even judged you. So you gotta let that go. You gotta let that go, anything. And you gotta let that go for those who did that to you. You gotta lead by example. And you gotta forgive. My father wasn't Jesus, but he drove the joy bus. There was in San Antonio. They had a school bus at our local church. And he would drive around. The local church was pretty close to a low-income area in San Antonio. And every Sunday, or at least for Sundays at a stretch, he would drive it around and pick up all the kids from the neighborhood. My mom would sit on the front seat, and we'd sing songs, church songs, till we got to church, and then the kids would all go to church, and then he'd drive them back. My father wasn't Jesus, but his best friend was a homeless beggar. Some of y'all are surprised, or maybe even offended. Sorry, you probably weren't his best friend. His best friend, I don't know if he's here. His name was Randy, and he was homeless or transitioning homes for almost the entire time I knew him. I can't tell you how long he was friends with them, but he talked with them every week, helped them out. This was a real lost soul, and I don't know how he is now, but again, it didn't matter to my dad. It was someone who was looking for guidance, someone who needed help, and he'd give whatever help he could, and give whatever guidance he could, and he'd just be a good friend. My father wasn't Jesus, but he turned water into coffee every morning to feed the masses. Mike's kind of already covered it. But like driving the joy bus, which is something everybody probably would like to do, who's a giving soul, I think everybody, drive kids around, get them to church, get them back who wouldn't normally go to church. But he also did the things nobody wanted to do. He was there every Sunday making coffee. He was out every Sunday afternoon giving communion to those who couldn't come to church. He was our scoutmaster for almost our whole lives. How any of us didn't achieve Eagle Scout, it's like a miracle of laziness and hormone-added adult teenage brains. But he was our scoutmaster nearly the whole time. We would go to church 3 times a week, every week. And when I say every week, I mean every week. Till we were old enough and teenagers that we could decide how often we wanted to go to church. And he would still go to church 3 times a week. He would do the things nobody would step up to do, and you can't get people to do regularly. Apologize in advance for the upcoming coffee shortage for those who go to this church, because for sure, there's not many people you can find who will show up every Sunday and make coffee. But that was my dad his whole life. My father wasn't Jesus, but I never saw him sin. As nice as he was to everybody, you figure at home he had to be either that nice or a serial killer. Assuming that he isn't the world's best serial killer, he was that nice at home. He was exactly who he was here in the church. He would sing these songs on a daily basis, every day. He would sing these songs anywhere, everywhere. I never saw him take a drink of alcohol, smoke a cigarette. Never heard him say a single curse word, even though he couldn't explain why he could say "oh crud," but I couldn't say other 4-letter words. Closest I saw was him lose his temper a few times, get mad and spank us. But I promise you, we were doing way worse stuff than the money changers at the temple, so I figure that's not a sin. My father wasn't Jesus, but he was the best disciple Jesus ever had. And he's definitely with Jesus, and he's definitely one of his right-hand men. I heard it from many people. He knew he was going, there was no doubt. As Mike said, he wants to name the coffee bar after him. I think they should put a picture of him beside Christian in the dictionary. Because there's no doubt that whenever we hear that in the world, what's a Christian? Would a true Christian do this? We have an example that we can point to and follow. Say that's a Christian. And if there's everyone who made it up to heaven, it's him. My father wasn't Jesus, but he was the best man I ever known. I owe him everything. We owe him everything. I don't know that there's a greater privilege than to grow up in a household with my mom and dad, with my dad leading by example. And so I'm forever in his debt, and I hope to be. a quarter of the man he was. Thank you all for coming.